Hi, Charlotte and Grace here from One Less Stress Connect. We are so excited today as we are joined by guest speaker Nick Williams. So Nick Williams is the inspired entrepreneur, guest speaker, having spoken in over 17 countries. He's also a teacher and coach, has traveled the world, done many media interviews. We're talking about over 1,000 plus interviews, and is an author of 14 books. So Nick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
No worries. So Nick, today is all about you. We want to hear about your journey, how it all began to where you are now, and any tips or tricks you can give on how to ensure a positive mindset as you continue along your entrepreneurial journey.
Wow. All in 15 minutes.
All in 15 minutes or thereabouts, if possible.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know, I started my first business 27 years ago now, but that was in pre-internet days, you know, but in terms of mindset, I was certainly somebody, and I think a lot of people can relate to it. I was brought up to think I needed to have a job, you know, that I needed to work for somebody else. So being an entrepreneur and doing my own thing was never even a career option when I was growing up. And I think most of us don't get exposed to that idea. So, you know, I think secretly I harbored a dream that I could do my own thing, but I didn't have anybody in my life when I was growing up who was really self-employed. And I thought entrepreneurs were kind of people like, you know, Arthur Daley. I don't know if you remember Arthur Daley and Del Boy and Only Fools and Horses.
Oh, yes, yeah,
they were all a bit dodgy, you know. Couldn't be trusted, you know, they kind of rip you off. So the idea of being an entrepreneur had kind of mixed associations for me. But eventually, you know, I was in a corporate job for about 9 years, working for three corporate jobs for about 9 years. And I just felt like corporate life wasn't for me, you know. I just didn't feel it allowed me to be my best self. Mm-hmm. So in the end, it just kind of got too painful. And the kind of pivotal moment for me was when, a couple of things happened. Number one, I used to work in Holborn, and I was walking along Embankment Gardens. I don't know if you know it, it's just next to, between Holborn and the Thames, just next to the Thames. And I had my nice suit on and a briefcase. I'd left the office to get out of the office, and I had my nice cashmere coat on. And I heard this voice say to me, "Cheer up, mate." And I looked round, and there was a homeless guy telling me to cheer up. And it was one of those moments where I thought, hang on, you know, there's something wrong in this picture. Here I am, a successful computer salesman, you know, a corporate job. On the outside, you know, a lot of things right, but on the inside, just feeling like I was in the wrong job. And, you know, I was just not put on this earth to sell computers to banks. So that first thing happened, which was like, you know, my unhappiness obviously showed. Yeah. And secondly, in 1986, I got an opportunity. I trained in something called transactional analysis, which is kind of a psychology. And my mentor at the time said to me, "Why don't you give a talk at the TA conference?" And I thought, no, you know, that's a grown-up thing. I'm not a grown-up. I can't give talks at conferences, you know. But to cut a long story short, she kept nagging me, and I eventually did it. You know, eventually said yes to doing it. And I gave a talk, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified to do this talk. And afterwards, I beat myself up, and I thought, you know, I didn't do very well. I could have done better. But while I was giving that 2-hour talk, I felt like that's what I'm on earth to do. I'm on earth to teach, to inspire, to get ideas across to people, to help people fulfill their potential. So it was like one of those 2 hours where I thought, this is it. But I was still in my corporate job, so it took me like another 3 years to actually transition out and to get the courage together. And the next probably pivotal thing I did was earn my first income as an entrepreneur whilst I was still in my corporate job. And that, you know, the language I use is that proved the concept. I could earn entrepreneurial income. Mm-hmm. So
would you say that once you earned that income, that's when it became real to you, and that this was
Well, two things. You know, when I gave this talk, you know, for me, it was almost like we talk about sometimes having a soul or a deeper self. And for me, it was a tangible experience of feeling inspired. Well, not just talking about inspiration, but experiencing inspiration. 2 hours, I felt utterly inspired. So I thought, this is what I want to do. And then the first time I got paid for doing it, then I thought, blimey, you know, if one group wants to pay me, maybe there'll be other people that would want to pay me. Literally from those two experiences of firstly feeling inspired and secondly being paid to be inspired,
win-win,
a whole career and a business was born.
Wow. So you said that you transitioned out over 3 years before you went fully into being the inspired entrepreneur and guest speaker. So how did you, I mean, were there any challenges that you had to overcome?
Well, the reason it took me through 3 years was I was so terrified, to be honest. You know, so what I talk about a lot is whenever we're inspired, whenever we're doing what we love doing and we're doing what I call, you know, what we're born to do or what our calling is, what we're really passionate about, you know, sadly, in my experience, not far away is going to be fear. It's going to be resistance. It's going to be all the doubts. You know, will anybody ever pay me to do this? Am I going to be good enough? Am I just fooling myself? You know, how am I going to find my clients? Am I as good as I think I am? You know, we can all list our own versions of resistance. You know, we all had them. And to me, it was like, am I crazy? You know, I've got this fantastic corporate job that pays me a load of money. I don't have to work too hard for it. Why the heck do I want to jack it all in just because I don't enjoy it very much? Am I mad? Am I crazy? Am I stupid? So I was really tough on myself. So that was one of the biggest obstacles. I was just so tough going, you know, are you crazy? Are you stupid? Why on earth would you want to give this up? Most people will give their right arm for what you want to walk away from. And because I'd had no entrepreneurial upbringing, I didn't really know how to run a business, you know.
And I guess it's because you're really going outside of your comfort zone as well.
Yeah, utterly outside my comfort zone. Which is obviously something most of us need to do in order to grow and learn and expand. But often, you know, when we're about to take those steps, you know, those voices in our head really kick in big time. And that's certainly what happened for me.
Okay, so what tools did you use to help you overcome those fears of the feelings of fear that stopped you, that made
How did you express it? Yes.
Well, I think there's a number of things, you know, but the two of the most important, I think, are to put yourself in a community of people that think like you do, who are entrepreneurial, who are creative, who are inspired, who are pioneering in their own lives. So be amongst like-minded people. Don't spend too much time around what I call naysayers, people that go, you know, are you stupid? Are you crazy? Why are you doing this? What, you know, have you lost your marbles? That kind of stuff. So don't spend less time around negative, cynical people, more time around inspired, creative, successful people. And secondly, there is a whole skill set to learn about being an entrepreneur and being a business owner. And even 26 years down the line, I still feel like I'm learning every day. So, you know, it's a lifelong workshop, really. So get with the curriculum and learn, you know, so learn by studying other people that have been successful and how they've done it. Learn by trying stuff out and making mistakes and having successes and seeing what works for you. Because just because something else works for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Yes, yeah. And
there are no success formula, if you like, you know.
Yeah.
There are things that most people do, but there are a lot of things that we simply learn as we go.
And at the time, was there anybody that you that inspired you in terms of following your dreams? Was there?
Well, tons of people. Yeah, you know, I was involved in a project at St. James's in Piccadilly, and I was hosting a lot of the most inspiring speakers from around the world. I don't know if you know people like Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra.
Wayne Dyer.
Yeah, you know, I was hosting talks for them. So I did get to meet a lot of the kind of most inspiring kind of teachers on the planet. So, yeah, you know, so, there was I immersed myself in the areas of inspiration. And I think that was really important. But I think, you know, in retrospect, you know, because you ask if there's kind of something in hindsight that I wish I'd known. And I think it's something that many of us get caught in. We think the way to be more successful is to get better at what we do. And I think there's a part of us that does need to get better, you know, continually. So for me, to continually to become a better coach, to become a better speaker, to become a better writer. But as important, if not more important than those, are actually to learn how to market yourself. You know, it's not enough to be good at what you do. There are tons of people today that are brilliant at what they do. Probably one of the kind of skill shortages, if you like, is of being a skillful marketeer of what you do. Whether that's, you know, in the offline world, but today mostly we need to learn internet marketing skills, how to be found by the people that might want to hire us. So yeah, you know, in hindsight, I wish I'd invested more time and energy in learning how to be a marketeer sooner.
Okay, brilliant. And just going back to mindset, because for many people out there who are doing that difficult transitioning of employee to entrepreneur, it's just how to be consistent when you're running a part-time business, but ensuring that you are putting 100% into it. Because there's many situations where you can dip in and out, you just lose motivation, etc. So is there any tips or guidance that you can give just to keep people spurred on that are listening today?
Yeah, well, you know, I've kind of said some of it already, but number one is to find your first paying client.
Yes.
Because it depends what you're doing, whether you're selling a product or a service, whether it's something you personally deliver or whether it's something you make, or maybe it's something that somebody else makes and you market. But, you know, what I teach people is once you found your first client, who's not a family member or a friend, nice to you, but who's a real life client, the first time you find a client, they pay you and they're happy, you have proven the concept. So then the next question is, well, how do I find the second client? How do I find the third client? How do I find the fourth client? So just gradually build it, because I think, you know, there's a lot of it is just about building confidence. Because even when you get your first paying client, you could go, well, I just got lucky. I just found the only person on the planet that wants to hire me. You know, there's never going to be anyone else that wants to hire me. I've met many people that have kind of gone into that kind of thinking. So, so I talk about just build your confidence bit by bit by bit. And as you build your confidence, then you can cast your net wider, then you can do things that are bolder. And, you know, I think one of the things that I found most, it sounds funny, but found most difficult in a way, was that it was okay to be paid for doing things that I love doing. Because, you know, one of the things I wrote about a lot in my first book, in The Work We Were Born to Do, was the idea that I called it the Protestant work ethic, that said, you know, it kind of says, as long as you're not enjoying it, as long as you're miserable, as long as you're suffering, and as long as there's some struggle involved, that's work and you deserve to be paid for it. But if you're really enjoying it, if it comes easily to you, if you would willingly do it without getting paid, a lot of people then find it hard to actually charge.
I think it's
so get comfortable in charging for what you would want to naturally do anyway. You know, I just literally, like a couple of hours ago, I just had a coffee with somebody who I met a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and you know, we were chatting about coaching, and he's a business owner who's never been coached. So I said, well, you know, let's meet and have another coffee, and let's have a coaching conversation about you and where you want to go. And it was so easy and natural to me, and he almost wanted to pay me on the spot. And I was almost going, even today, going, but that was too easy. I can't take money off him. That was much too easy. So it's, for many of us, it's getting beyond, you know, what I call the suffering ethic. That you can be brilliant at what you do, you can love doing it, and you can still be well paid for doing it.
Yes, you deserve to get paid. Yes, that's true. I guess, that's it is sort of within the mindset, is something that sort of comes up time and time again when we speak to other entrepreneurs within our circles. You know, like this comes so easy to us. We love doing it. We do it on a daily basis. So it's just, how do we price it right so that we are getting paid for what we're worth? There is that danger that people ask for discounts and you just feel obliged to give it because you know, it comes so easy.
So you know, I think one of the things I've learned to do over the years, especially around kind of coaching and stuff, is as much as possible to try and end a conversation by asking somebody, so what have you found valuable about this? Because obviously what we're selling at the end of the day is value.
Yes.
And the more people understand what's valuable, the more they're willing to pay for the value it gives them. But I think sometimes we struggle to understand what the value is that we're delivering. You know, we find it hard to even articulate it, let alone put a price on it. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, some of the language I use is sometimes we need to kind of borrow other people's eyes to see what we're doing. Yeah. So ask them to tell you what they find valuable about what you do and what I do, what we all do.
I think that's a great tip.
Yeah. So when somebody says, what do you do? And you can say, well, I'm a coach. And then I can say, and what people have they've found valuable about my coaching is all these things.
Mm-hmm. And
so in a way, you're describing yourself in terms of the value that other people have found in what you do.
Yeah.
Yes. And another question, Nick. I mean, I know it may be a bit biased because you are a coach and mentor, but with mindsets and, you know, just ensuring that you are constantly having a positive mindset when you are running your business, would you recommend that people have a coach or mentor? Just somebody that's there to guide them, or going back to immersing yourself in those positive networks to show?
For sure. You know, I think you're right on track in terms of, I think so many of us have grown up with so much, I suppose, negative conditioning, really, negative programming. You know, don't take risks, don't step outside your comfort zone, don't stick your head above the parapet, play safe, all those things. You know, I'm 58 now, and, you know, I've been running my own business for 26 years. I am still dealing with my own negative thinking every day. So I have, you know, co-coaching relationships with about 4 different people where, you know, we talk to each other once every week or once every couple of weeks, and we just support each other. So even at kind of my level, I still get myself coached regularly.
Yeah. Okay.
So the answer is yes, you need positive community, you need coaches, mentors. I still love reading inspirational books, entrepreneurial books, leadership books, because you know, they just help me stay on track, you know, with my thinking, and help me let go of old negative thinking and embrace new positive thinking. And, you know, I like the idea, rather than positive thinking, I like the idea of possibility thinking.
Yes.
Opening the mind up to what's possible.
Yeah. You know, because most people have a very limited idea of what's possible for them.
Yeah. Sell them short, almost.
Yeah. So, yeah, we tend to put, you know, a lot of limits on ourselves. There are a few people that are probably, you know, the other way around, who think they're capable of more than they are actually capable of. They soon crash and burn. Yeah. Most of us are the other way around, which is that we're actually limiting our sense of possibility. You know, because if somebody had said to me 30 years ago, you're going to write 14 books, you're going to travel around the world, you're going to be on the media and stuff, I'd have gone, are you crazy? Are you deluded? I would literally 30 years ago have not believed that the life I have today was possible.
Amazing.
But I've needed to open up to it. You know?
Yeah. What has been the highlight of your entrepreneurial journey so far? I think that'd be great.
Hundreds of them, you know. Every day, every week, there's a highlight. But, you know, probably one of a recent one over the last couple of years was I coached somebody a few years ago, and long story short, she has been the executive producer of Downton Abbey.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't see her for a few years, but it was lovely to think that I played a part in helping her be inspired. And then we reconnected a few years ago, and she invited me onto the Downton Abbey set. And I saw some of the film. And you know, I've had some inspiring conversations, and I've put some of them on my blog. So that experience has been pretty wonderful. A few years ago, I got to spend an evening with Desmond Tutu in London when he was there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And just some of the people that have become friends and colleagues, I'm just thrilled. You know, it's like my circle of friendship is different today than it was, you know, 30 years ago.
When you first started.
Very blessed. You know.
Brilliant. Can you recommend any books or audios that you think would help those transitioning? Obviously, there's
so many. All of my own, you mean?
Yeah, and yours included as well. Of course. There's so many.
Well, of mine, probably, you know, 2 or 3 that would be most helpful would be The Work We Were Born to Do is the original book that I wrote. That's about that sense of purpose, and that work can be inspiring and wonderful. Then I followed it up about, you know, 5 years ago, I think, with a book called The Business You Were Born to Create, because what I realized was there was a, you know, when a lot of people discovered what they wanted to really do with their lives, it became their own business. And I think it's very different running your own business, doing what you love, than it is doing a business that's just something that you get paid for.
Yeah.
So very different creating a business around the work that you love doing. And probably my book, Resisting Your Soul, because a lot of people just don't understand this whole idea of fear and resistance. And, I think I did a pretty good job of illuminating that in that book and helping people understand it and figure out how to get through it. But then in terms of other people, there's a woman called Emma Jones, who's a kind of self-employed advocate, and she wrote a book, I think you mentioned, you're aware of it, I think it's called Working 5 to 9, which is like having a part-time business. So lots of practical ideas about how you can get your own business going. And an American friend of mine that I worked with for a number of years called Barbara Winter wrote a book called Making a Living Without a Job.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that's a good one. It's talking about, most people think to make a living you have to have a job, and she's talking about, she calls it being joyfully jobless.
Something that we're aspiring to be, our community.
Well, we'll list all of your book recommendations in just under this video, Nick. So no worries, we'll get that out there to all our connectors to listen to.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, Charlotte, do you have any further questions for Nick?
I think, we've got the main crux of it basically, and it's just, I think Nick's mentioned today about community, being around those to keep you inspired. That's what I've taken away from today, and audios and books and overcoming that fear. So I think we've covered the main crux of what our audience are really going to need to overcome to make that transition. So Nick, thank you for today as well. And those book recommendations, ones I've not read, I'm going to be checking those out as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And if people want to come to my website, and my website is iamnickwilliams.com, and there's tons of free audios and free videos and blogs and all sorts of great stuff. And you can get inspirational quotes every day. So please come along and check out what I do.
Fantastic. We'll definitely list it all below. So thank you once again, Nick, the Inspired Entrepreneur. And we look forward to following more of your journey in the future.
Thank you very much. Well, I wish you all well.
Thank you. Thanks for your time today.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.